Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaimed the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to a brand new segment, 3 and Out. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with J-Dash and JK47. We're going to pick 3 topics from the NFL, weekly, monthly, depending on how often we feel like doing the show. We're going to talk about it, and then we're out. That's it.
No thumbnail for it either.
No thumbnail. You got nothing, dude. You just get to stare at a blank screen and listen to my soothing voice.
So what are we doing then?
The first topic we're going to talk about running back Adrian Peterson and his return to the NFL.
Boring.
Then we're going to move on to Roger Goodell and whether or not he should be fired. And then we're just going to talk about a couple key injuries because there's been a lot of high-profile players go down already here in Week 1 with 2 games remaining.
It happens. It's football, man.
Please believe. But we're going to start with the return of Adrian Peterson, mostly because he's on my fantasy team, and I'm really excited to see what this guy can do. He is almost 30 years old, or is he already 30? Does anybody know? I don't really know. I know he's really close. Pretty sure he's already 30. Either way, it doesn't matter. This guy got suspended for child abuse, or being accused of child abuse. He beat the crap out of his son with a stick, and then he shoved dry leaves in his mouth. We found out that Parlay had pine cone shoved in his mouth while talking about this last year, so that was slightly interesting. But Peterson really can change the whole offense for the Vikings. They were 14th in rushing last year without Peterson, so they really didn't even do that bad. They ran as a team with Asiata and
Jerick McKinnon,
and what was the other guy's name?
I
forget the third guy's name. He didn't matter because you didn't like him, so that's all that matters. But Adrian Peterson comes back to an offense that has added Teddy Bridgewater last year, Charles Johnson, Mike Wallace. They still have Cal Rudolph. They have Cordero Patterson, even though he's kind of been almost a bust, borderline bust. Do you think that Peterson will have fresh legs, considering he hasn't played since Week 1 last year, or do you think that too much time off is going to ruin him and he's not going to be ready to go?
It depends on his conditioning.
Well, he's a freak, dude. He came back from an ACL injury and almost set the NFL rushing record, so I'm pretty sure he's in good shape.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's in good shape. And this isn't like baseball. Baseball, you take a year off and it's hard to come back and play good baseball. Football, you take a year off and you should be fresh and more ready than ever, in my opinion.
I think at running back, too, especially. I mean, it's not like he's changing teams or anything. He's still on the same team. They're going to run the same basic offense that he has. He just actually has a quarterback now in Teddy Bridgewater and a couple wide receivers that can keep them safeties deep and might actually give Peterson a chance to get some more running room.
And let's not forget that players miss a season all the time. People get hurt early. You were just talking about all these injuries. Listen, Jordy Nelson is going to miss a full season.
Believe it.
Does that mean he's going to stink next year? Probably not. Now, a lot of people think Victor Cruz is going to stink this year for some reason. I still say he's going to be pretty good when he comes back.
I guess it depends on the severity, too, of the injury sometimes.
In football, yeah, you can miss a year, and you come back fine. And I expect Adrian Peterson to be a beast this season, and that's why I had him ranked so high in fantasy. I think I had him, ranked number 3 overall?
I mean, we just said it a few minutes ago. He missed a season after tearing his ACL and then came back and almost set the NFL rushing record. So
yeah.
I don't think time off is going to hurt him. Peterson, though, has 2,000 rushing attempts and over 10,000 rushing yards on his legs in his career. He is due to make $12.75 million this year, $14.75 and $16.75 the years after that. Do you think the Vikings stick with him through those 3 years and those big monies, seeing that he is on the wrong side of 30?
Depends on what he does during those 3 years, Jim.
What if he comes out and leads the league in rushing this year, 47? Are you paying a running back $12.75 million to play for you next year?
Is he scoring the touchdowns for you?
I mean, he's Adrian Peterson. He does everything.
Well, then I'm keeping him.
Yeah, it's scary. Running back is the one position you can just find more.
Yep.
But
well, it's the one position you just go,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, you go downhill quick.
You're done.
Yeah, exactly. And there's always someone. I mean, you could draft a running back in the 5th round and he can turn out to be a beast. It happens all the time.
You don't even got to draft
Adrian
him.
Peterson is still a little bit different than all these running backs because you can't find another Adrian Peterson.
Do you think he has a robot knee?
He's a cyborg.
I'm just pumped up to see a player of his caliber come back into the league, get some playing time again. I want to see this guy run around, dude. I've always been a fan of Peterson on the field, not off the field. I'm not condoning what he did to his child. But I want to see this guy get out there. I want to see what the Vikings can do, especially since I got a few boxes of ZD on him tonight.
I'll never forget his rookie year, man. It was like every single play he was rushing for 50 yards, it seemed like. He was so dominant his rookie season. I mean, he's been dominant his whole career, but that rookie season was just ridiculous. It was 4 or 5 times a game and just break off huge chunks of yardage.
If you had to put $1,000 on it, who would you pick to have the better season running the ball? Not catching or anything. I'm just talking about just rushing. Peterson, Le'Veon Bell, or DeMarco Murray?
I'd either say Bell or Peterson just because of the offenses they're in. I think the Steelers are going to be able to run the ball very well, and I think Minnesota is going to be able to run the ball very well too. So I'd go with one of those two.
Well, do you think Peterson's going to open up his passing game for Teddy Bridgewater? You think you're going to see him?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
More big plays?
we talked about that in our fantasy segments already. The addition of Adrian Peterson this season is only going to help Teddy Bridgewater, and I expect him to progress in his usual ways like a quarterback would even without Peterson. So I see a big season from Bridgewater, actually, and I like their receiver. Well, I'm not a big fan of Mike Wallace, but Charles Johnson is a receiver I really like, and I'm looking for him to have a good year as well.
If you're only asking Wallace to do one thing, go downfield and create separation and space for your offense, I mean, he does that pretty good still, but I get what you're saying. He's not a complete receiver to be getting paid what he gets paid. But I agree about Bridgewater. I think he was the best crop of rookie quarterbacks last year. I think he's better than Derek Carr right now. I think he's better than Blake Bortles right now. I think he's going to have the better second season.
Bad. Well, Derek Carr got hurt. Blake Bortles looked bad.
My opinion, Bridgewater is the best quarterback to come out of that draft.
I agree.
Well, all he has to do is play decent tonight, and he'll already look like he's going to have a better season.
I heard somebody predict the Vikings are going to win their division. Any chance they beat the Packers and win the NFC North?
No.
I don't think so either.
I give him I give him maybe like a.
I think they get 10-6.
Oh, easily. I mean, this is definitely one of the up and coming teams in the NFC. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially once as they keep strengthening the defensive side of the ball. You know, Harrison Smith, he's a nice playmaker at safety. You know, I'm actually a big fan of his. I mean, nobody that really, it's kind of like the Steelers, though. I mean, nobody really scares me on that defensive side of the ball anymore.
I tell you what, though, Green Bay, yeah, they did put up 31 points, and that's what you want to see out of your offense, but it wasn't like that passing game completely towards Chicago out there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played well, don't get me wrong.
And Jay Cutler didn't.
Yes, but I don't know. It's possible Minnesota can stay in this division if Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that high-flying offense this season without Jordy Nelson.
Well, true or false, Adrian Peterson's going to take these guys into the playoffs this year.
True.
Adrian Peterson?
I think Peterson carries them in as the 6th seed.
I'm going to say no. They miss out.
I think 10-6 will be good enough to grab that 6th seed. There'll be some tiebreakers. I think there'll probably be a few teams finishing, right around there. But I think they'll finish second in the NFC North, at least behind the Packers. The Bears have no defense, and Jay Cutler's garbage. And the Lions,
I don't know, man.
they're just
Amir
so
Abdullah.
inconsistent. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying they can't be beasts. Don't get me wrong, because they got Stafford, they got Johnson, they got Golden Tate, they got Ebron, they got Abdullah. All the tools are there. They had a good defense last year. They just are such a weird team, and they're always so up and down.
Their defense looked good this week too.
Well, this is what Detroit should do. They should play Stafford at home, bench him on the road, because he can't play on the road at all.
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about Ben sometimes too, though.
Believe
you don't want to do that.
Hell no.
Who would you?
Yeah, okay. Well, we're not even comparing
or
Ben.
Orlovsky
We're not
or
even
whatever his
comparing
name is.
Matt Stafford to Ben Roethlisberger, though.
Believe it.
Please believe, but I'm just saying it's the same type of thing. Would you seriously consider benching Matt Stafford though?
Never.
Probably not. It was
a joke.
I'm pointing out he is that awful on the
Yes.
road. Is what I'm trying to say.
Believe it. Well, let's move on to another awful individual. He's awful every day, all day, though. Roger Goodell. Should this guy be fired? All the NFL fans hate this guy. I mean, if you give me a room full of 150,000 people, 150,000 of them hate Roger Goodell, man. This guy, he could be public enemy number one throughout the whole entire country of the United States. I think he might have been right up there with Bin Laden whenever everybody was hating on him. But he's had all these suspensions overturned. Bountygate suspension, Tom Brady suspension, Greg Hardy suspension, Fans hate this dude. Owners love him. So there's a problem there. The fans want him out the door, but all this guy does is make money for the owners. So is there even a realistic shot that he will be fired? Because I don't think so.
Well, what I think they need to do is I think they need to get a panel of people, ex-NFL veterans, people like that.
For what? Just the discipline?
Well, not only that, but just overall execution of the league in general.
Because there's already talk now. Goodell said it himself. He said, oh, maybe I'll just take a seat back or a step back on the discipline thing. I have a lot on my plate. I'm a really busy guy, so me and the owners are going to work together and set up this panel like you're talking about. It's all because of all this pressure. Goodell is an egomaniac. He's power hungry. He wants to have total control over everything. He loves having total control over everything. All he wants to do is strike all these young dudes down. I know some of these guys deserve their suspension. Hardy threw a girl on a bed full of loaded assault rifles. Okay, yeah, you should be suspended. Brady cheated the game and then lied about it in the investigation. Yes, he should be suspended. But it doesn't look good for the NFL every time he suspends somebody and then it gets overturned. One or two here and there is no big deal because it's the arbitration process, it's the union appeals, all that stuff. It just shows that it works. But when you're getting 5, 6, 7 of these things overturned in such a short period of time, somebody's got to take a step back and look at, is this guy really good at everything he's doing for the league? Because I think he's kind of hurting the league in some aspects.
Not to mention he squashed tapes of the New England Patriots cheating. He put papers through a paper shredder to get rid of evidence on that whole situation. And even, there's the Ray Rice situation, too. You can't forget about that. He was an idiot there and made the suspension before the tape came out or whatever. He said he didn't need to see the tape or something. And then it just shows Ray Rice decking some broad. But listen, I hated him before all this. Before they even suspended all these players every single week now, it seems like.
30 players started the year on suspension this year.
He's changed so many rules in the game of football to me that football isn't even football anymore. And you guys know I've been saying it for years.
Sarcastic.
Yeah, I've been telling you for years I'm starting to hate football because of all the rule changes that he keeps making. And this year's is you got to kick an extra point from the 50-yard line. There's runners can't bend over when they're running in the middle of the field or something. What's the thing? You can't put your helmet down.
Yeah, you're not allowed to leave with your helmet.
Something like that.
Not allowed to hit anybody above the shoulders or below the freaking thighs.
I understand you don't want people to hit each other in the head, but this isn't the way to solve it to me. It's just to suspend players for doing it because I'm sure they don't want to hurt other players that way in the first place.
Unless you're Jack Tatum.
The only ounce of remorse, I guess I should say, for Goodell and the whole league changing the rules and everything.
How about
the players are the ones who started suing the NFL for all these concussions. So he's just trying to find a way to keep that from happening again in the future. So, if they bring this lawsuit again here in 10 years, he can say, oh, well, look at all these things we did to make the league safer.
Yeah,
so
it's all about player safety. Let's make 20 games a season.
I'm telling you, man, I know. That's a very realistic probability very soon.
And look, this extra point, this whole change in extra point, is that for player safety?
Yeah, because that used to be one of the easiest plays in football. Half the time, nobody even tried. They just kicked it. And now everybody's got to try harder because there's actually a shot that he's going to miss it. And if he hits it off the freaking post, I don't think you're allowed to catch it now. But, if you tip it, you're allowed to run it back for 2 points now, as before you weren't. So teams really didn't care about it. If you block the kick, you got yourself 2 points, so it definitely is not helping in player safety.
What's the most exciting play in football?
There's exciting plays in football?
Well, to me...
It's not the kickoff anymore.
Yeah, it used to be the kick return to me. That was my favorite part in all of football, and now they're useless.
Yep.
Just the whole... You know what I always liked about kick returns? Just 22 guys out on the field just being completely reckless.
Yeah, running down the field,
that's pretty much all it is.
Yeah, and that's what he says. He changed it because of player safety, and players do get hurt on kick returns. It happens. They get hurt on punt returns, too. So get rid of punts. You should just have to go for it on fourth down.
You can get hurt leaping in the air to celebrate a touchdown.
You can't extend the season and explain away all these changes you made in football saying it's about safety, because it obviously isn't about safety. It's about money.
It's all about money.
It's about people like us to play fantasy football.
His middle name
believe.
is Money, I'm pretty sure, honestly. I think his face is on the $1,000 bill, too, now. I don't know. He might have convinced the government to do that. I'm hearing that the owners, we mentioned a few minutes ago, they want to change the discipline, his role and everything in it. When they do that, they want to extend the CBA again because they love the agreement they got so much, and the players aren't getting anywhere near the amount of money they should be if you base it on how much money the league's actually bringing in. The CBA is already running through 2020, and they want to extend it almost into 2030. So that puts it at 15 years more. Goodell could be fired, but Goodell's basically involved with all that, and we could be stuck with this guy for almost another 2 decades. And I can only imagine what football is going to be like in 15 years. It's going to be flag football, and you're not even going to be allowed to sneeze out there because it'll be deemed offensive. You're not even allowed to use swear words anymore. Are you kidding me?
It already seems like WWE to me.
And, FIFA just got in trouble for that big scandal. They covered something up. I don't know a whole lot about it because I'm not a soccer fan. I just know a lot of top officials took a lot of money on the side, and they were taking money from governments to be allowed to play, the tournaments in those countries, bribing people and everything. This is on par. The whole Deflategate, Bountygate, destroying all that evidence, that to me is on par with the FIFA scandal, and people should be looking at Roger Goodell as a possible criminal in the way that he covered up so many things in the NFL. Fans, he is hiding the truth from you. He knew that Ray Rice video was out. He's seen it. There is no doubt in my mind he's seen it. But he thought that the NFL could keep it out of the public's eye because they work well with ESPN and all these other people. Well, guess what? TMZ, Deadspin, they don't give a crap about the NFL and Roger Goodell and partnerships and commercials and trademarks. They're going to blast you, dude. It's going to come out. You cannot cover things up. You should have came out, did the right thing, showed everybody the video, and then suspended them. No, you want people to try to think NFL players aren't as bad as they really are. There's bad people everywhere, man. It's not your job to try to babysit all these guys. If they did something wrong, let them own it. Don't cover it up because now you look like a criminal.
Yeah. Goodell's a douche. What else?
The one thing we can all agree on at the spread, everybody hates Goodell. I think it is literally the only thing we all agree on.
Just hope we don't make him president one day.
You never know. But let's just talk about a couple key injuries from week 1. Dez Bryant is the first one on my mind. He broke his foot. He's going to have surgery tomorrow. ESPN is reporting he's out 4 to 6 weeks. I'm hearing it could be possible 8 to 10 weeks. I heard that it is the same injury that Kevin Durant had for the Oklahoma Thunder. Yes, I know it's 2 different sports. But a wide receiver is the closest thing to a basketball player on a football field with all the running, jumping, starting, stopping, cutting things that they do.
Apparently tight end is because half of them were basketball players.
Yes, but they were terrible basketball players. But
Gates would kill you in basketball.
This is big for the Cowboys because they already lost DeMarco Murray, the league's leading rusher last year, and now they got rid of their wide receiver who had 16 touchdown catches, I think, last year. So this is big for Tony Romo and company. I know they came back and were able to win that game with a late pass to Jason Witten in the end zone, but I think this is going to be bad for the Cowboys, and they could lose a lot more games than people are thinking. They have no number 2. I don't even think we talked about their number 2 in fantasy.
Oh, yeah, we did. Terrence Williams will step in as the number 1 receiver out there, and Cole Beasley, he should see a higher amount of targets moving forward as well. He's going to be playing in the slot still. I mean, he is a slot receiver. He's a small guy. But you've seen him this past week against the Giants. He looked pretty good. So I'd look out for Cole Beasley in fantasy or whatever, in a deeper league maybe. And Jason Witten, he's going to see a higher amount of targets. He already had a good week, 2 touchdowns against the Giants. And I see him being more of a focal point in the passing game. And also, Lance Dunbar was split out wide a lot in this game. And I think he had 70 yards receiving or something, maybe 8 catches, 7 or 8 catches. He looked very good as well. So there are still some weapons around Tony Romo out there, but losing Dez Bryant, I mean, none of them compare to him in any way.
If he's out 10 weeks, do the Cowboys make the playoffs?
I was going to say they weren't going to make the playoffs this year anyway.
I agree with Dash.
3 no's.
I just think losing Murray is too much. Now not having Bryant for half the season.
Joseph Randle looked okay, and like I said, Lance Dunbar at running back, I mean, he was used more as a receiver, and he'll probably be used as a receiver moving forward without Bryant. But, I mean, they looked okay in their backfield. And Darren McFadden, I mean, he didn't do anything that great, but he should see more playing time moving forward as well.
What about the big injury to the Steelers' biggest rival? Terrell Suggs tore his left Achilles. Sunday's game. He's out for the year. He already tore his right Achilles a few years back. Terrell Suggs has wreaked havoc on Pittsburgh. Not as much in the last year or two, but he completely dominated some games and pretty much won entire games for Baltimore by himself. This is a big loss for their defense, who has lost Ray Lewis. They obviously lost Ed Reed a while ago. They're aging.
Haloti Ngata's gone.
Haloti Ngata, yeah. They're just getting worse and worse. Baltimore's not that vaunted defense of the past.
He'll be back.
Yeah, but it's next man up there, just like it is in Pittsburgh. And, yeah, they were very bad against the pass last season, and they were good against the run, sort of like the Pittsburgh Steelers were last year. But yesterday, against Peyton Manning, they looked pretty good. Now, a lot of people are saying Peyton Manning is washed up, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe it. I think Peyton Manning's all right. But the Baltimore defense played pretty well against Denver. In fact, they stopped C.J. Anderson, too. Yeah, Demaryius got hurt late in that game. They shut him down somewhat. Emmanuel Sanders didn't have the biggest game. He played all right, but Baltimore's defense played pretty well. And I came into the season saying I don't think Baltimore's defense is going to be good at all. And the loss of Suggs definitely isn't going to help that. But they did show some upside in week 1 here.
Speaking of C.J. Anderson, he also is hurt. He sprained his toe in yesterday's game,
Yes.
so he's being evaluated. He could possibly miss week 2. Nothing that they think is going to be long term, but if it is turf toe, which it could be, but nobody thinks it is, but if that ends up what it's being, that's really bad for a running back, and he's going to have a hard time getting back from that, and they might not have wanted to cut Monty Ball, but hindsight,
Well, Ronnie Hillman should play
but I just mean
bigger
for depth,
role.
you know what I mean?
Right.
That's all. Another guy, Dash, you're real big on this guy. We both like him. Luke Kuechly, he's in concussion protocol now for the Carolina Panthers. He made a tackle yesterday. I think it was in the second half, and helmet to helmet, and they just kind of dinged together, and he looked a little dazed. He tried to stand up and went back down to one knee. This is a guy that's probably the best middle linebacker in football. He's the highest paid middle linebacker in football. He just got a new deal last week. He could be out, I don't know, with concussion protocol, it's hard to tell, but I would guess probably 1 to 2 weeks. They said everything seems fine today, and that if he would have had to take the test that he's supposed to, he could have passed them. Things can happen in days as they change with concussions, but it shouldn't be anything too serious, and he should be able to get back on the field pretty soon. And they need him because they got nobody on offense in Carolina, so they need their defense to be good.
Well, Carolina put up 20 points offensively, I guess. Well, maybe not. They might have scored defensively. I actually think they did have a defensive touchdown. Look, Carolina's defense looked great, but it was against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. And we thought Blake Bortles was going to take a step up this season, and I'm not quite so sure right now. He didn't look very good, but like I said, coming into the season, I liked Carolina's defense. 47 here picked the Carolina defense up in fantasy right before the week started because he felt they were going to have a big week. And Luke Kuechly is the key to that defense. If they're going to play like they did against Jacksonville throughout this season, Kuechly got to be 100% healthy.
I think another one of the big injuries, really for me, the next biggest, I guess, would be T.Y. Hilton for the Colts wide receiver. He's got a bruised knee. He's day-to-day. He looked in a lot of pain when he came off the field, and he was sitting on the sidelines with a towel over his head. He didn't even let the trainers touch his knee for the first minute or two. So this could be bad, but they don't think anything's torn. There hasn't been any reports of anything torn or anything yet today that I've heard. So it's probably a bone bruise, and you're looking at maybe 2 to 4 weeks. Nothing too serious. But that offense didn't look that great against Buffalo, so they're going to need all the weapons they can get, although I think they'll be okay. I'm not saying they're in disarray. That's a big loss for the Colts.
Yeah, I don't think it's any reason to panic. You still have Andre Johnson out there. He should see a uptick in production moving forward if Hilton does miss time. And then Dante Moncrief was actually ahead of Philip Dorsett in this game on the depth chart, and it looks like Moncrief would actually step in to Hilton's role if Hilton missed time, while Philip Dorsett maybe would be the third receiver. But T.Y. Hilton's definitely the best receiver out there, and that is going to hurt for him. They also got 2 decent tight ends out there in Kobe Fleener, Dwayne Allen. They still have a bunch of targets around Andrew Luck out there, and I'm not even looking at this week 1 to predict anything. I think the Colts are going to be fine this season. And let's not forget, Buffalo does this every season. They start out hot, and then they start to cool off as the
Buffalo's
season goes along.
defense is actually solid, too.
Oh, yeah, they're beasts.
Believe it.
Yeah, I'm down with Buffalo's defense this year. I'm just saying, T.Y. Hilton, he'll be fine when he comes back. Let's not forget, he was hurt at the end of last season as well. And the Colts played okay without him when he was missing time. So I'm not too worried about it. I think they'll be fine without him, and they'll be fine when he comes back.
Deshaun Jackson has a shoulder injury. He's expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks. And Andre Ellington, the running back for the Cardinals, sprained his PCL. He's expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. Which one of those are the bigger injury for their team?
Oh, I'm going to say Deshaun Jackson, I guess, because I'm not a big Pierre Garçon fan, but he'll step into the number 1 role out there. And then you look at Andre Ellington. I mean, I like David Johnson, although I did hear Chris Johnson is going to step in and be the lead back out there.
Both played well, both Johnsons.
Yeah, well, I think David Johnson, I mean, I guess you can't say he played well. He had 1 catch for 55 yards and a touchdown. I heard something, he was the fastest guy in the NFL in week 1 when they timed their speed or whatever. He ran 22 mile an hour. I wish they'd put David Johnson as the starting running back without Andre Ellington there, but it looks like they're going to go Chris Johnson and then spell him with David Johnson. But I still like the backfield in Arizona, whereas Pierre Garçon as the number 1 receiver in Washington, a team that already has Kirk Cousins at quarterback. I mean, that's tough out there.
What about you, 47? Jackson or Ellington? Who's the bigger loss?
I'm going to say Ellington because, I mean, Jackson, I'll tell you what, there's no quarterback to throw him the ball anyway, so what the hell does it matter? But, I mean, Ellington, I mean, he could be a dynamic back at times. He's a good runner. He got great ball skills coming out of the backfield. Nice little safety valve for Carson Palmer. But, I mean, overall, I mean, none of these losses really strike out to me as, like, really crippling. Because in Jackson's case, it doesn't matter. But in Ellington, as Jay Josh just said, you have David Johnson and you have Chris Johnson.
Yeah, I think David Johnson is a very similar back to Andre Ellington, but can run between the tackles a little bit better. And let's not forget, the Arizona Cardinals played well without Ellington last year because I said it coming into this season, you want to keep tabs on David Johnson because Andre Ellington is never going to be able to stay healthy. It's just not what he does, and it took all but a couple quarters for that to come true.
The last 2 guys I got on the list, they're both basically week to week. Derek Carr, quarterback for the Raiders, and Antonio Cromartie, the cornerback for the Jets. Cromartie was expected to be serious. The way he went down, it was a non-contact. It just looked like he shredded everything in his knee. No tears of anything, the ACL, MCL, or PCL. It's just a sprain. All I'm hearing is week to week. This is great news for me because I have the Jets on my fantasy team, both of them, I think. Cromartie alongside Revis.
You'll drop him anyway.
That's one of the best, probably. That's one of the best, if not the best, 2 corners in the league. I can't think of a team that starts 2 better corners.
Willie Gay and Cortez Allen or Blake or whoever.
Yeah. And Derek Carr for the Raiders. Raiders fans, I know you hate us because we hated on Derek Carr, but he can't even get through 1 game. Yeah, you have Matt McGloin, and now they're looking at
I don't blame people for injuries. Sometimes
somebody
injuries
else. Matt
happen.
Flynn, I think they're trying to bring back.
Can't do anything.
Oh,
about
my
it.
hand hurts. They said it's a thumb bruise, and they're gonna.
But look, when
check
he was
on it
in,
to see if there's a hairline fracture.
I know he got hurt early, but when he was in, they weren't really moving the ball that great anyway. Cincinnati was taking care of business in that game. Yeah, I mean, we weren't high on Derek Carr this season, no doubt about it, and we'll have to wait and see if he can turn it around when he comes back. How long is he supposed to be out, you said?
They said it's week to week. He could miss just 1 game. He could miss none games. He could miss 50 games. Who knows?
I don't expect Oakland to be going anywhere this season, and I'd stay away from everybody but Latavius Murray in fantasy.
What about Amari Cooper? No?
Without Derek Carr, it depends. I mean, you bring in a quarterback, you call up the Steelers and bring in Mike Vick, maybe Michael Crabtree has some upside then or something, you know what I mean? But Matt McGloin, now I'm going to stay away from Amari Cooper until I see. I mean, Cooper had an okay week last week, nothing spectacular, but I'd have to see moving forward or have an excellent matchup that in the particular week.
47, what are the chances the Raiders make the playoffs?
Negative 55.
You heard it here first, folks. Well, that is it. That wraps up our first ever 3 and Out segment. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you fans for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. You can follow me on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check us out on Facebook. Keep coming to our YouTube page. Click subscribe. Send us comments. If you got a topic you want to hear us talk about, let me know. We'll probably not talk about it.